You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
You are listening to The Money Hour at 1150 AM KKNW, the Friday, July 31st virtual show. Because of COVID, our show is temporarily moved virtually. You can hear us on podcast and catch us on air on Saturday at 3 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Sunday at 8 a.m. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
It is a great day to talk about money, and that's what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, so you can have a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. We're here to connect you with the guests that we have on the show. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150 or on themoneyhour.com. And now in our show, we have, or on our show, our virtual show, for the first time, Michael LaGris of Michael LaGris Computer and Network Services. How does a home-based individual or small business find honest, on-site, complete, and competent window PC assistance that is priced fairly? Right here at 1150 AM KKNW. Michael, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, Michael, are you on mute over there?
I am now on mute. Thank you, Tina.
Love to see you. Thank you. I know this is a regular thing with our virtual shows, but I think it happens a lot on all virtual shows right now. So, Michael, thank you for joining us. And a little bit about Michael. After graduating from the University of Washington with a BA in accounting, Michael started off his employment as a CPA and spent about 15 years there before he found out how to use personal computers. We're becoming in the late 1980s. After sharing the rest of his professional endeavors between accounting versus computers and networks, he went back to school in 2005 in order to pass Microsoft-sponsored exams and qualify for a title of Microsoft Certified Systems Administrator. He then went into business for himself, where he remains today, and calls himself the Windows House Call Computer Guy. Love it. Michael provides Microsoft Windows computer and network services to individuals in their homes and to small home-based businesses.
Michael, let's start out with this. So you were an accounting degree, and then CPA, and then you decided to switch over to computers. How the heck did that happen?
Well, I had my own firm. I left a large firm and soon after graduation and started my own firm, and I had a one-man CPA shop in the early 80s, and everybody was computerizing, so I thought, well, I better do that, and I thought it was kind of a necessary evil. I just fell in love with it. So I fast forward a few years, I joined my firm with another fellow in the late 80s, and no one else had too much interest in computing or networking, so I became the computer guy of the network, and it just grew from there. My boss finally retired years later, and I decided to go back to school and get some certifications.
That is awesome, Michael. So let's talk about the certification. What does certification mean, and what is Microsoft Certified Systems Administrator?
It's a title that Microsoft, they don't actually offer that exact title anymore, but it means that that I have passed some pretty rigorous exams that are sponsored by or created by Microsoft to test industry known knowledge on Microsoft systems. And a system means I understand how networks work and how large groups of computers and users of computers group together. That's actually called a domain. And it means that I understand how those are grouped together and for security purposes, connectivity purposes, and so that users and computers and administrators can share network resources like computers. And you know, you keep the accounting department away from the engineering department, and the people out in the on the floor cutting the boards don't see the payroll and those sorts of things. It means I understand systems, networks.
Yeah, that sounds like, and you got to keep everybody in their own lane so everybody is mastered at what they do.
Even when they're small.
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine that's only getting, I mean, technology is growing and getting crazy. This COVID has even boosted it more. We've talked a lot about that on the show and how this has really cut the strings on everybody kind of holding on to the past. And it's kind of more of a, if you can't beat them, join them. But not only did you join them, Michael, if I understand this correctly, you actually taught classes on this stuff. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I actually, when I got my certification, that was 2006. And after I hung out my shingle, I was doing work for a lady in her home, and she introduced me to a volunteer group called SeniorNet that she was associated with, and they taught computer classes to seniors, and I decided to go and see what they were all about, and I just fell in love with volunteering, and I found that I had a serious teacher bug in me, and I got good ratings in my classes, and so I actually caught on with another company in Bellevue for professional teaching. They were a certification facility, and I taught the same classes that I passed exams for to get my certification. I've long said, if you want to learn it, teach it. So I stood.
Isn't that true?
I stood in front
Go
of
ahead, Michael.
large dollars for classes, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, and it definitely is true. When you're a teacher, you continue to master your craft at a very quick and high level. So, Michael, I know why because we invited you to be a guest on our show, which means that you provide a high quality of service. But for our listeners, what sets you aside and what do you do different than your competitors might do?
I don't even know if I would use the word competitors, but I understand that it's a concept that we can certainly identify with. There are lots of folks to go to these days. One of the things that sets me apart is I am the guy. When you call me into your home or your small business, you get me, and you get the same person that you've called before. I understand what we're going through. I know what we've already traveled. And I take a very conscientious approach to everything. My CPA background says I'm a fiduciary when I enter someone's home or someone's business, and I take a very careful approach to what we attack, and I will find a solution to. I've had almost never have there been a case where I don't find a solution. So, and I don't have a manager looking over my shoulder to say I've got to charge so many hours or so many dollars. I want to make sure my customer, my client gets great value, more than they paid for. I really, really care about the result. So I take a personal interest. I also bring my teaching bug. I cannot turn it off. I want that person to be stronger when I leave. I want to show them 7 shortcuts, and I want them to sit with me when we do stuff. Don't go make dinner while I work on the computer. Sit beside me and show me what you need help with. I want to work with you and make you stronger today and tomorrow. I may never see them again. I may come in one time and we fix or do whatever is necessary. And so I take a very interested approach in bringing tremendous value and conscientious experience to the table.
Michael, you bring up a very valuable point. Like, first of all, computers are very complicated, and it can go down so many different rabbit holes, so what you're trying to fix could be in a whole different lane. And, so for you to kind of encompass the entire thing, I think is an invaluable service. And I mean, one thing is probably, and we've experienced this because we've tried to implement a lot of things with our businesses, me and Tina, and you always find one thing leads to another thing, which leads to another thing, and that can get really messy. And just like anything, you go to a huge giant company, and it's like talking to customer service for one of those where you got to explain your problem 7 times and talk to 6 different people. It can be very frustrating. So you bring a very, very valuable point. So do you really do computer repairs per se, or what exactly do you do?
Yeah, virtually everything is repairs of a device, almost never anymore, Keelan. These computers, a computer itself, of course, what's going to be repaired? My gosh, it's not very cost effective to try and repair a piece of a computer. What's going wrong is probably 3, 4, 5 years old anyway. So if it's brand new, it's probably under warranty. If it's old, it probably should be considered to be replaced. So a repair, typically not. But my visits are usually to assist in something that just isn't working right. There's a new printer and we can't get it to connect. Setting up a brand new computer. How do I configure my backups? I want Office 365. I'm moving from an old Word program. How do I get that to work? Where's my files and my folders? Do I put my backups on the network or do I do them online? It's more, it's software connectivity and an overall systems approach orientation that I take. Repairs, no. If something is going wrong, it's probably a throwaway item and we don't repair. Even adding additional hard drives or memory anymore, pretty darn rare. I used to go to the retail store regularly. They knew me by first name. Here comes Mr. LaGris again. And I was buying memory to put in old desktop computers. And it just doesn't pan out very much. It's not expensive, but you don't get much for it. We ought to take a look at something that's more effective, probably a new machine. If it's 3 to 5 years old, probably working fine, but we don't put a new hard drive in an old machine and you're still stuck with 5-year-old equipment.
Makes sense. So, Michael, let's talk about InterBuyer introduced that, you work with homeowners and small business owners. Talk a little bit more about your perfect market.
I would love to be known in a neighborhood or a community as the guy to go to. I do a lot of work with one particular neighborhood that's near me. It's a senior community. I've been to about 20 homes in this neighborhood, and I'm in their electronic newsletter, and people call me because I'm the guy that they see in the newsletter, or they heard about me from a neighbor. My perfect person is an individual in their home, a small business with 3, 4, 5 computers and a couple of printers, or maybe a home-based business. I did help a new retail establishment just this last weekend. They moved from one Bellevue location to another Bellevue location, and we took about 7 or 8 computers and 3 or 4 printers, and they have network resources and network backups, and we moved everything, and they had to get new wiring and new internet connectivity and so forth. That's a fairly complex job in my arena. I can handle all those things, and that's fine. But the perfect individual for me is an individual in their home. Where are they supposed to go to? They can call the kids in Massachusetts and do a remote session, but the kids have busy lives. They're not teachers. They typically want to just do it for mom and dad and get off the phone. And I don't blame them. We're all busy. I want to work with those folks and help them get stronger. I want to work one-on-one. Show me your list. You're an individual person or a small home-based business, and we need to get it done.
And Michael, one last thing. Unfortunately, we're already out of time. It goes by really quick. So I just wanted to ask you one last thing. The question everybody has: what does it cost? How do people get a hold of you? And any last thing you want to leave with our listeners?
You bet. Michael, I try to charge $80 an hour. And I'm usually rounding in favor of rounding down for a good price result because I want to give good value. And contacting me, the easiest way is just mylastname.com, LaGris.com. And my email is my first name at mylastname.com. So I'm Michael at LaGris.com. And last thing I'd like to leave with listeners is do your backups. Losing data, not an option. I was the primary person in my CPA firm for the last 7 or 8 years I was there to make sure that we did our backup. Losing client data is not an option. I have never lost data files. I've had hard drives go bad, but I will not lose data files. Do your backups. Find a way. There's lots of ways, and they're not expensive.
That's a great call to action for you, Michael. And thank you so much. Like Keelan says, the time goes by quickly, but it was fun having you on the show for the first time. And coming up next to the Money Hour, how the industry of flowers has changed. We have Judy Sushisa of Fina Flowers Incorporated right here at 1150 AM KKNW.